choose one of 12 trophy case things,
Yeah.
and I still have some left over, but I have Dark Matter Dr. J now,
Wow.
which is ridiculous. And I sold a guy earlier and bought Opal MJ, who I have not played with yet, but I bought him because I was like, why not? I've got 250K sitting here, so
There you go.
might as well buy Michael Jordan.
I can't tell you the last time I played 2K.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's
It was
been a
definitely not
minute.
like I feel like they definitely pushed away casual players this year.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel as friendly to somebody who like doesn't play it as much as I do. Like if you play it any less than I do, then
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd have to grind my butt off.
yeah, it's just annoying.
Yeah. But
I'm hoping that they'll ditch the trophy case system or make it secondary and go back to the similar rewards that they did last year. Also, level 40 Trey Young, absolute garbage. Terrible.
see, what's the point then? What's the point in
Exactly.
Didn't you say that about somebody from season 2 also?
Booker is solid.
Oh,
He's
you
just
said
not
that
like
about the Ascension reward. That like,
Diamond Ben Wallace,
yeah.
in
Like
which he was just a card from the season before.
what's the point in grinding my butt off for that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Or
Like,
like the glitch Josh Smith that like I've had glitch Josh Smith for a long time because he was in the pack in season 2.
yeah, it's just
It just
it doesn't seem
really, really
as it doesn't seem as rewarding for the amount of time. You know what I'm
nope.
saying? Like, unless
Yep.
you are really grinding your butt off and
Yep.
putting in a ton of hours and like playing online to where
Yep.
that really pays off, then it just doesn't seem like it's worth it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I might switch back to my career, maybe, because I always enjoyed
I've
grinding
heard that
my career.
it's like even grindier.
No, well,
Like
that sounds
like
terrible then.
the progression, it costs a ton of VC to do any upgrades, is what
Jeez.
I've heard. Yeah.
Maybe I'll just stick to the show then. That's what I've been playing a lot recently.
Hey, there you go. I'm just happy I beat you
My career in the
at
show.
Chuckle today.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
I
I
was
was
like,
sitting there.
"Oh,"
I
I was
feel
literally
like
thinking, "Willie Pap." That sounds like a guy from the olden days. I don't know, Lou Gehrig.
I feel like part of it was that I was doing it like, I don't know, 10 minutes after I woke up, and so
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sitting there, and which is, I mean, that's usually the time when I do it, anyways. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, let me think of like an old baseball player, and I literally could not think of one outside of like Babe Ruth.
Right.
I was like,
If he
okay, well,
didn't
it's
play for one
obviously
team.
not Babe Ruth because he didn't play for one team his whole
Right.
career. And so I'm sitting there like, I could think of Joe DiMaggio, and I was like, okay, well, he's later. And then like Ted Williams and Carl Yastrzemski, and both those guys were later. And so I was like, I got nothing. I got nobody from that time period. It
Yeah.
was awful. And then as soon as I got it on the sixth one, I was like, of course, of course,
Named a whole disease after him.
yeah, yeah. All right. Um, we ready to roll? I think we're ready to roll.
Ready.
Let's do
Ready
it
to
to
rock.
it. Let's do it to it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Booth Review. As always, I'm your host, Devin Primrose, joined by my brother from another mother, Mr. Blake Ivy. Hey, man. Happy belated Christmas. What's going on?
Played Christmas. Yeah, not just. I'm here at my parents' house, so if you're watching online, you can see this is not my normal setup. This is my parents' basement. I'm in my parents' basement. It's like the sweaty 30-year-old living in his parents'
I
basement.
mean,
They got this,
it's got to be real sweaty in that fuzzy onesie you rocking over
dude,
there.
this thing is dope. So this is like a Sherpa hoodie, and let me just show you this. It goes all the way to my ankles.
Yeah.
It's all the way to my ankles. It's awesome. It's just like a big old hoodie. It's just like
Hey,
a
there
hoodie.
you go.
It's like a hoodie that had a baby with a robe, and I love it. And I don't think I'm ever gonna wear anything else. So
I was about to say, knowing you, that fits you perfectly.
yeah,
You're just
I
gonna
love hoodies.
every single time I'm gonna be at your house, you're just gonna be in that. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, if you guys are coming over for New Year's Eve,
We'll be there.
I'm gonna be in this. I promise. And how much am I wearing underneath it? No, you can leave that to your imagination. You know, however much you want me to be wearing.
That's on a need to know basis. That's what that is.
Most people you don't need to know, and most people you probably don't want to know.
Oh man,
you have a good Christmas, man.
Ask you the same thing. Yeah, it wasn't bad. We went up to Wilmington, visit the wife's family, and yeah, it was a good time. We got to play a decent amount of disc golf, which is always fun.
Yep.
It was very cold and windy the first day, so might have been a mistake. But I only lost one disc, so
that's good.
That's good. That's good. But yeah,
only one.
It was a fun time. We got to spend some time with her parents, and her sister was there, and so yeah, good times were had. What about you, man?
Nice. Yeah, it was good. We been here at my parents' house and staying here for a couple days. So my kids and my sister's, she's got a 1-year-old, and so them just playing around is super fun. And yeah, it's great. Eating a lot of junk food. I'm definitely coming back fatter than when I left, which is fine. I have this giant hoodie that can hide my figure until I get things tight again. Or almost like tight in theory, right? And by the only thing tight is my pants. That's what's tight. Is my belt is a little tight. But
yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, man, it was good. It was hard to watch football because you just like doing family things and like out and about, and just hard to keep up with it a little bit. But we do our best for here on the podcast.
Yep.
Keep you informed, the listener, and give you our opinions. So we're doing things a little short because I am at my parents' house, and so they're like, they want to play games, and so we're gonna keep it like a shorter episode. So instead of doing each of us having a best of the booth and an under review, we just have a collective best of the booth from the show and a collective under review for the show. So Devin handled the best of the booth, and so I'm what we got for our best of the booth for week 16 of the NFL season.
So for best of the booth, I tried to narrow it down to just one, but I could not. There was at least two notable performances to mention.
Okay.
The first was the Carolina Panthers taking care of business against arguably the hottest team in football in the Detroit Lions and looking dominant in doing so. If you don't think coaching is huge in the NFL, look no further than this team.
Yep.
About 5 weeks into the season, they fired then head coach Matt Rule after falling to a 1-4 record. They then traded away star running back and face of the franchise, Christian McCaffrey. And what have they done since? They've gone 5-5 under interim head coach Steve Wilks and are 1 game back in a tight division race. I just want to say Steve Wilks should absolutely get the head coaching job for next year. I think he's done everything he can to prove that he deserves a shot running that team for a full season.
You don't think they're going to hire Nathaniel Hackett?
I think they're going to pass on that. But this Carolina Panthers squad could very well be hosting a playoff game in about 3 weeks' time, which is
I hope so.
Which is crazy. And in a big must-win game on Sunday, their pair of running backs absolutely delivered with 2 100-yard rushing performances each. The Carolina Panthers had 320 total rushing yards on the day. Deontay Foreman, 165 yards. Old Chubba Hubba with 125. Just flat out fantastic, dominating rush attack from this Panthers team. Yeah, it's a little worrisome seeing the Lions get so dominated from a team like the Panthers that is good, maybe hovering around the mediocre area of the NFL, probably a little bit better than what a lot of people think they are. But the Lions were looking fantastic, and they just fell flat. In a game
Lions are not as good as half of this podcast.
I mean,
has tried to say they are.
I still don't believe that. I think that weather played a factor in this one. It was incredibly cold in Charlotte. And I don't know. I think this Panthers team's better than a lot of people give them credit, including me. And maybe the
I
Lions.
tried to warn you.
You
I
did. You did.
almost picked the Panthers. Didn't I say that if this one was it wasn't in Carolina?
Yeah, it was in Charlotte.
Yeah, I was man, I really regret not picking it because
Yeah.
I was like, Panthers defense looks really good. The thing that is the worst about the Lions is their run defense. They just like don't
Yeah.
scare me there. It was just it was the ultimate bad matchup for the Lions.
Yeah, and it showed up. I mean, it showed that on Sunday for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But from one team to another where they traded a quarterback.
Yeah.
They traded their quarterback Baker Mayfield to the Rams. And I would be remiss if I didn't also mention what the Los Angeles Rams were able to do.
They didn't trade him to the Rams.
Oh, that's true. They cut him
cut
and
him,
right,
and
the
the
Rams
Rams
picked him up
on waivers. Yeah.
But what they did on Sunday against the Broncos was amazing.
Ridiculous.
In a meaningless game for both teams, LA put up 51 points on what had been a stingy Broncos defense and what would inevitably be the final nail in Nathaniel Hackett's coffin. This defense...
It took his coffin had needed
too many nails. But this defense was only allowing 18 points a game going into Sunday, but that didn't matter. LA went on a scoring spree led by Baker Mayfield and Cam Akers. Mayfield went 24 of 28, which is, I believe, I did the math earlier, but it's somewhere over 85%, which is ridiculous. 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, showing flashes of why he was drafted first overall just a few years ago. And Cam Akers racked up 118 yards with 3 touchdowns on the ground. Just an incredible outburst of offense. So those are my picks for Best of the Booth. Could not narrow it down to one.
I have an honorary legit or counterfeit here.
Okay.
That I planned on.
Let's do.
Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Do we think that this is him in? I'll frame this more in the form of a better question. Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams in the 2023 NFL season. Legit or counterfeit?
See, there's a huge variable there, and that is the health of Matt Stafford.
Is it?
It is though.
Matthew Stafford was doo-doo.
Matthew Stafford also just won a Super Bowl with him. He also just won a Super Bowl with him 10 months ago, 11 months ago.
That's a long 10 or 11 months for Matt Stafford, apparently.
Listen. I can't sit here and definitively say that Baker should be the starting quarterback over them. I will say this, though. At the very least, I think they should go into training camp with both of them on the roster. And if Stafford's healthy, Baker can do what he can do to outplay him in training camp. But I would offer that kid at least the backup job to Stafford moving forward if he's willing to take it, which he might not be, because knowing Baker, he probably wants to go play somewhere, and I can't blame him. He's putting up good, he's played incredibly well there. Over 3 games there, he's tossed almost 600 yards, 69% completion percentage. I think he has, I want to say, I looked all this up earlier, I've completely forgot, but I want to say it's 4 or 5 touchdowns, just 1 pick, and which those are fine numbers in a good offense like McVay's offense,
especially when that offense is so depleted compared to what it could be.
Yes.
There's no Cooper Kupp. There's no running game. The offensive line is terrible.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm seeing what Baker's doing, and it's well, yeah, he's doing this with so little, especially if he can continue to do this over the last couple weeks.
Right.
Unless they go draft a quarterback, which is entirely likely. I mean, they could be pretty quick to take a QB in this draft.
But you're going to miss out on one because you don't have your first round pick.
Oh, that's right. They don't.
Yeah. I mean, if they're taking one, it's going to be in the second or third round, which, you're not getting the top guys like Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or any of those guys. So,
yeah.
I don't know, man.
Unless they trade Aaron Donald.
I like the idea of Baker in McVay's offense. I think.
Me too.
like this kid has so much talent. Like we've seen it. It's just not been consistent, and I do think a lot of that is the fact that he hasn't been in a consistent offense for an extended amount of time. And so
Yeah.
if you give him a whole offseason to work with Sean McVay and go into next season as the guy,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It could be a lot of fun out in LA. And I think that LA is a great spot for a guy with the personality that Baker has. I think that would be. I mean, that's like if he's playing well, that's like must see TV, man.
Right. Yeah, he's got that superstar potential and the like the drive, you know,
Right.
because he wants to put on a show because it's LA.
Yeah.
So
But the problem with
yeah,
Baker,
could be.
is I feel like the highs are high and the lows are very low. There's
Yeah.
no like middle ground of him, you know,
Mike
being
White syndrome.
okay. Yeah. Very much so. Who we got under review?
Speaking of lowest of lows, this week under review, we're throwing Tua Tagovailoa right under the bus. And yeah, I'm saying his name because I'm flexing that I can say his name correctly.
This is like the second time in 3 or 4 weeks
that we've put him under review. Yeah, I don't know what it is, man, but like he went from being arguably the most I mean, Tyreek Hill wasn't lying for the first 15 games of the season, first 14 games of the season.
Yeah.
Tua was like the most accurate. He was ridiculous. Absolutely just throwing dots, hitting dudes wide open. I mean, making great passes over the top. Tua looked awesome. This week, what's weird is that he had still a pretty good game. He had like a 65% completion percentage, threw for 310 yards against the Green Bay defense that can be good, but isn't always. But he had 3 interceptions, which is way too much. Like for a quarterback that you expect to be in the top 5 conversation, which he has been all year, for him to throw 3 picks and I went and watched each one of those picks because it's like, hey, I don't want to put the guy under review if they were all like tipped balls, right? No, they were all bad reads where he threw it right to a linebacker who either he didn't see in coverage or the linebacker was somewhere in coverage that he didn't expect or he's not used to. It was just very weird. So yeah, and those picks cost them the game. That the Dolphins should have won that game and probably could have saved those 3 Tua picks.
Yeah.
So, it's just I got to put them under review because, again, once we get towards the end of the season, it's hard to pick things that are surprising because most of the stuff is like, oh, okay, well, we expect Derrick Henry to go off. We expect for the Falcons to blow it. We expect for the Saints to be bad or whatever it is. Which they beat the Browns, but so much of it we expect. And so Tua, you're under review. Stop throwing to the other team. And now he's got another concussion, which, allegedly this is only his 2nd concussion.
We all know it's his 3rd, but
right.
Yeah.
We all know that's doo-doo. So yeah, I hate it for the Dolphins because it's a fun team, man. Like, it's a team to root for. Mike McDaniel might be my favorite head coach in the NFL. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's genius. I don't know what to do with Tua right now, man. And this team without Tua is not anywhere close to a contender, in my opinion. I think that Tua is the only thing that makes this team a contender. You take him out and put in, I don't even know who's going to start for them this week.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, I mean that's a great backup. Like, he's one of the top backups in the league, but he's still a backup for a reason.
Yeah.
And I don't think that what you're going to see from Teddy B is going to be anywhere close to what we saw from Tua.
And it's tough, man. They've really put themselves in a very tough spot. Losing 4 in a row like they have because they have the Patriots and the Jets over the next 2 weeks, which are 2 good teams that you could definitely lose to if you're playing the way they are. And if they lose both of those, they're almost definitely going to be missing the playoffs. They would need a lot of help from a lot of other teams. And even if they lose one of those games, it's still going to take a lot of help for them to get in just because of the position they put themselves in. So
Yeah.
it's tough, man. There was somebody put out a video of where they think the concussion happened on Sunday of where
his head kind of bounced off the
right,
ground.
right.
Yeah.
And his numbers before the concussion were 9 of 12 for 229 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 picks, and a 19.1 yards per attempt. So pretty good day he was having.
Yeah, like
And
regular
then,
Tua.
yes, and then the way it looked is his head bounced off the turf pretty bad.
Right. Which is what happened in his other two. Well, his other concussion and his other back injury.
Right.
Where his head bounced off the turf.
And after that play, he was 7 of 13 for 81 yards, 6.2 yards per attempt, no touchdown, 3 picks. So definitely a drastic difference if that was the moment when it happened. But I mean, we got to give some credit to Green Bay's defense because they definitely they put some pressure on him. The corners stepped up and made the plays when they were there. And
but this is not like a great Green Bay defense.
It's sure it's a talented one. I think that it is better than what stats say about them because of like we all know the talent that's on that. It's just it hasn't all clicked. So things that clicking for Green Bay, which it definitely looks like they kind of are. Green Bay, I wouldn't be surprised.
Matt LaFleur undefeated in the month of December. It's crazy.
I wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay sneaks into the playoffs and makes it past the first round. I would not be surprised just because of the talent level of that team when everything is clicking. But from 85-90% of the season, everything hasn't been clicking.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Tua 100% warranted to be under review. Yeah. Do we have a legit or counterfeit, or was the one earlier?
No, just the Baker one was my trying to do a shorter episode. I know a lot of y'all have family time this week, so
it's tough with the holidays. Everybody's busy going around hanging out with different people, spending time away from being able to listen to your podcast. So we get it. We understand. So I say we just jump on in to week 17, man. We got 2 weeks left. This time we get picky with it.
Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it.
Do we have any update on eliminated teams, clinching teams?
Yeah, I'm just gonna. So what I'm gonna do at this point is I'm not gonna list like the clinching scenarios and who might be clinching and eliminated because it's such a toss up every week. So what I'm gonna do is I will tell you who already has clinched and who has already been eliminated. So this week, so far, the divisions have been clinched by Buffalo, Kansas City, San Francisco, and Minnesota have all locked up their division and a trip to the playoffs. Those teams who have locked up a trip to the playoffs, but not necessarily their division, the Chargers have clinched, and they're the only team who has clinched who has clinched a wild card spot. So they're for sure and they for sure can't win the division. Meanwhile, Dallas, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Baltimore, all vying for their division spots, but have all also clinched the playoffs. So all of them are going to the playoffs. Some of them might win the division. Teams who are eliminated, this pile continues to grow. We've got Cleveland, Indy, Houston, Denver, Chicago, Atlanta, the Rams, and the Cardinals all added to the pile. So that pile is growing pretty quickly. And so we've got those teams who have been added to those fans who don't really care as much anymore. You can include me in that. I don't care as much. I really just am rooting against the Saints and Tom Brady. So let's go Panthers.
Yeah, 100%.
Keep pounding.
100%. Well, I do want to ask you real quick. I know we're not a college football podcast, but there are 2 very important games coming up on New Year's Eve.
Oh, yeah. Do we want to pick those?
I was going to say, do you have a prediction for those?
Oh, yeah.
So starting off is TCU at Michigan, I guess, at Michigan, because they're
Yeah,
the
yeah.
highest seed. Who you
Right.
got there?
Michigan's absolutely going to win that game. Not even close.
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if TCU does put up a show. They have a very good offense, but Michigan's defense is really good. So that's
Right.
what worries me there. Ohio State at Georgia.
Both of I'm sure you also are with me that ain't Ohio State ain't
100%.
gonna have a prayer. It's gonna
100%.
be we're Georgia at this point of the year. It's just like, hey, let's show everybody else why the SEC is the best. So yeah, Georgia's gonna absolutely just dominate Ohio State wire to wire. I would be shocked
Yeah.
if Ohio State ever has a lead in that game.
I agree.
So,
So I feel like I don't have to ask, but I'm going to anyways. Georgia, Michigan. Who wins it?
I think it's Georgia. And like that one I have no idea because Michigan did look dominant against Ohio State, and so they might
Yeah.
put up a fight. That could be a closer game, and they could upset Georgia. I'm not saying that this Georgia team is unbeatable, but I do think that they are the better team, and so I would pick UGA to win.
I agree. Didn't Michigan play Georgia last year in the playoff? Isn't that how it shook out?
Yes,
It was
Yes.
Cincinnati and Alabama, correct?
yes, it was because I remember Aiden Hutchinson was against Georgia and he did literally nothing.
Right.
It was a
So-
complete non-factor.
I think that game could be close, simply because
Yeah.
Michigan has a little bit of a chip on the shoulder after that game last year, and they
Right.
want to, come out and make a statement. I do think Georgia ultimately wins. I think.
Yeah.
Listen, in college football, it's Georgia's world. We're all just living in it. I mean, that's the way it is right now.
Back to back.
Yeah. I think they're going to.
Let's do it.
All right, well, let's get things started.
Are
Week
you-
17.
Just hold on. Are you getting my Discord sounds from my laptop or are they coming through my headphones? Because I can't tell. My little- What up? Were you hearing them?
No, I can't hear them.
Okay, cool.
You're good.
All right, good. All right, go ahead and I cut you off mid tee off of week 17.
You're good, man. You're good. Hold on a second.
This is in the background here in the corner for those of you who are watching. This is my dad's old sound company's logo. The Ivy Sound Lighting and Multimedia.
Oh, it's cut off.
Oh, it's cut out. Here,
Yeah,
I'll turn it.
I have it like.
There you go, right there.
Oh, okay. All right.
The old logo. This was his old office down here,
Gotcha.
long time ago.
Starting us off, week 17 on Thursday night football. I think this is the last Thursday night football of the year because they don't have one on week 18 because everybody plays the same day at week 18. So yeah, the last Thursday night football of the year, we get the Dallas Cowboys heading in to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans. Boy, what the Titans have done to their season. It looked promising at one point, and it has gone downhill and downhill quick. Dallas Cowboys are favored by 10 points. I think that is spot on. I think Dallas is going to absolutely roll over the Titans. The Titans defense is good at times. They have been solid, probably the best part of that team all year. But this Cowboys offense is capable of putting up some points, as we saw on Sunday, against another very good defense in the Philadelphia Eagles. So I've got the Cowboys in this one. I think I'd be crazy to pick the Titans, although the Titans probably need this win a lot more than the Cowboys do. With the way the Jaguars are looking to keep pace, they need to get a win here. But who you got, man?
Man, I'll tell you, this one is actually harder. To me, this is like the Panthers and Lions game last week. That although I think that one team is better, it's a bad matchup.
Yeah.
The Tennessee Titans have the second best run defense in the league. They only give up 80 yards a game. And the way to stop Dallas
Yeah.
is to make Dak throw the ball all
Yeah.
day. Now, the Tennessee Titans also have the worst passing defense in the league. They are, second worst. It's them and the Vikings. That's interesting. I didn't know the Vikings pass defense was that bad. Yeah, so it's like the Titans will absolutely stop you on the run and then give you literally whatever you want via the pass. So that's difficult. But also, Dallas Cowboys have like a bottom 12. They're in the bottom half of the league in rush yards allowed. They give up and 30 yards a game.
Hmm.
So when you have a Tennessee Titans offense who is coming in who will average 125 yards a game, you're probably going to give up closer to 150 to 200 yards against this defense. So I'm going to stick with Dallas. I think they're the better team, especially with Malik Willis still in because Ryan Tannehill had surgery, correct?
Yeah,
So
I think he's out for the rest of the season.
he should call it a career. If we're being honest, listen, I'm not trying to
I'm
get
kind of
anybody's
with you on
pocket,
that.
but like, let's just be done. I'm not sure that Malik Willis is the answer. Malik Willis looks bad for the
Definitely
most
not.
part. So I think that Micah Parsons is going to make his life in a world where rookie quarterbacks tend to hold the ball a little too long. Micah Parsons might have a field day. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the whole Malik Willis thing is really the kind of the decision maker for me on this one. I think that it's the Cowboys, and I wouldn't be surprised if Derrick Henry has a great day, but I think that Dallas is probably going to stack the box and dare Malik Willis to throw. So we'll see, but I'm going to take Dallas in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you for literally all the same reasons. I do think that this could be an interesting matchup, a matchup that could favor the Titans, but I think the Cowboys they're just too good on both sides of the ball, and the Titans have many.
They did lose to the Texans, or they almost lost to the Texans. Did they lose to the Texans?
True, no, they almost lost,
And then they lost the Jags. That's what it is.
But the Jags are hot and very good right now. So,
or are the Cowboys falling apart?
I mean, they might be. They might be.
You will find out.
Did just beat the Eagles,
On
even though
Thursday.
they had a second string quarterback in there. But
Yeah, they beat Gardner Minshew.
yeah. I could see this being surprisingly close, but I still think Dallas pulls away with it.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I think that line of 10 is probably a little disrespectful, and I would listen. I know we're not a gambling podcast, but I would expect the Titans cover that 10 points.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that.
From a matchup standpoint.
I'm kind of with you on that. Let's head over to Sunday. Sunday. First day of January football. It's finally here, folks. Finally here. And we got kicking us off at 1 p.m. over on Fox. We get the Chicago Bears heading into Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. This Lions team coming off a bad loss to a slightly better than average Carolina Panthers team. The Lions are
potential playoff team.
Potential playoff team, and as I said earlier, probably better than a lot of people give them credit for, but still has its flaws. Carolina Panthers. This Lions team, 6-point favorites against the Bears. I think that's fair given where the Bears are. The Bears have nothing to play for at this point. Just pack it in, call it a season, get yourself a good draft pick. The Lions have everything to play for. They could have done a lot with a big win over the Panthers, especially considering how every other team in the hunt outside of the Packers lost on Sunday. They could have done a lot by just getting the one win over a probably worse team, but they couldn't do it. And so now they put themselves in a bad spot. They got to win every single game that they have left on their schedule, and that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough next week. It's always tough to get back-to-back wins in the NFL. So Detroit, I'm picking you, and I hope that you get it done against this Bears team, because this is a sorry Bears team that has nothing to play for, and you have everything to play for. So I'm picking Detroit. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to take Detroit. I think that they are the better team. It'll be interesting to see if the Bears run for like 500 yards, because the Lions just can't stop it.
Yeah.
So we'll see how many yards for a Bears team that loves to run the ball, especially with Justin Fields. We'll see if they can do enough to slow them down at least. Because if you can keep the ball away from the Lions offense, that spells disaster for this Detroit team. So I'm with you. I think that Detroit is the better team. It's just, can their defense step up and stop the run, which they struggle with.
Yep. Moving on to Atlanta, we have the Arizona Cardinals coming into town to take on the Atlanta Falcons. Got ourselves another bird fight.
Fight.
Big news in this game is that this will be J.J. Watt's last season. He announced his retirement. I think it was earlier today. So hats off to you, JJ, on what has been a fantastic career, a Hall of Fame worthy career. What are you looking as a Falcons fan? Because this is a meaningless game.
Right.
Atlanta 3.5-point favorites, doesn't matter either way. You're playing for draft position at this point. As a Falcons fan, what are you looking to see in this game from this team?
I mostly want to see Desmond Ritter's development. So far, I've really liked what I've seen from him from the first week to the second week. This last week,
Yeah,
he looked better. He looked less deer in the headlights than he did the week before. Still some like jitters, but he had some throws that were right on the money, and his errant throws weren't awful, right? Like it's not like,
right.
oh man, what was that? Honestly, I think from a passing standpoint, he's better than Mariota. Not nearly the athlete that Mariota was. He's not a bad runner, and he's got a pretty good pocket awareness. If I'm from what I've seen, which that really hasn't been my focus. I'll try to pay more attention to it this week, especially against a Cardinals team who can get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll look at his pocket awareness, but Atlanta still is going to run the ball first and then throw. But he and Drake London have had a lot of chemistry. Drake London needs to hang on to the ball. That's what he needs to do. Keep fumbling and costing us games. That it's like, what are you doing? It's like, I think it's 3 games now that I know it's 2 in a row that he's fumbled and lost the ball trying to fight for extra yards. And then there's the Chargers Khalil Mack, where Khalil Mack just came and took the ball from him a couple weeks ago. So Drake London's got to get those fumbles under wraps, but their connection and Drake London's ability to high point a ball, and he's just got ridiculous hands and athleticism. So I love that. I love Tyler Algier. I love what I've seen from him. I don't expect anything from this defense at all.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just about watching Ritter's development at this point.
Makes sense.
I could care less about draft position. I'm not that guy. Now, would I love to be in the top 5 and get Will Anderson or Jalen Carter? Absolutely. But, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I'm watching for Ritter. I've got the Falcons in this one, just because Cardinals with backup quarterback. I know that the Falcons are bad, but that's real bad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you mentioned Algier. He currently has 817 yards on the season. So with 2 games left, it's potential to go over 1,000 yards rookie season. You think he's a sneaky offensive rookie of the year pick?
Potentially, if this Falcons team did anything else. I mean,
yeah,
he's. I think what helps his case is he's got really good yards per carry. I don't have it right in front of me, but I know that because they share the backfield so much, his yards per carry is pretty good. He's got
4.9.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking 5 yards a carry. That's Nick Chubb territory.
Yeah,
right
he's
there.
top. He's 10th in the league, so top 10 in yards per carry.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe the offensive the receivers have been great though. So
true. I mean, true, but there hasn't been like in my opinion, there hasn't been like a clear-cut, standout, consistent one all season.
Yeah.
And as far as the other rookie running backs, you look at Kenny Walker out in Seattle. He's dealt with injuries. He's battled injuries. You look at Dameon Pierce in Houston and Breece Hall in New York. Yeah. Both dealt with injuries. The only other wide receiver I think's been fairly consistent is Chris Olave in New Orleans. And maybe at this point he's maybe the favorite for offensive rookie of the year, but I think that's a wide open race. And I don't know. I think Algier deserves a little bit of love.
I like it. I hope so. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you go over 1,000 yards as a rookie running back, like that's pretty good, especially on a bum team like the Falcons.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, let's head up to Arrowhead, where we have the Denver Broncos with a new interim head coach heading in to Kansas City to take on this Chiefs team that keeps on rolling. The Chiefs are 13.5-point favorites. I would mention who the Broncos interim head coach is, but I don't know off the top of my head, because why should I follow anything this Denver team does? All I needed to know was Nathaniel Hackett is gone. He's done. The Hackett era is over with, and I'm sure that team is happy, those fans are happy, and probably most importantly, Russell Wilson is happy. Do you have a name?
I don't have a name. I do remember that they brought him in to be the clock management advisor. Like that's what they brought him in to do. So
Oh boy,
yeah,
that already
know.
sounds
that sounds like a
terrible.
disaster.
Yeah,
But it cannot be worse.
I mean, you say that. You
It
say
can't,
that.
man. It can't be worse.
Well, they just got a 50 burger laid on them by the Los Angeles Rams, who are a far inferior offense to this
Right.
Kansas City Chiefs offense. I wouldn't be surprised to see another 50 burger laid on them. I just think the Chiefs are that good. Like, this is a very good team that plays very good down the stretch every single year. So I'm going with Kansas City. I think it's a pretty easy pick. Who you got, man?
Yeah, same. I'm going Kansas City. There was a little bit of part of me that's tempted to take them just as like a, they come out and they like take revenge against Nathaniel Hackett by playing really well, and Russell Wilson might come out and have a perfect QBR.
If Russell Wilson goes off, the entire world will know that it was Hackett the whole time.
That's really what I hope happens. Like that's what I'm rooting for. Is it's like it was not Russ. Like it's not Russ's problem, but everybody loves to make fun of Russ, and it's like
there's also like a clear
SpaghettiOs fruitcake.
There was a video of a play that I saw where I can't remember which receiver it was. It was he was wide open on the sideline, and Russ instead. He's sitting there waving his arms at Russ like, look over here, here I am. And instead, he passes it, and I believe it turned out to be an interception. And I just think there's not good chemistry there. Like, I think the chemistry is missing, and I do think that the head coach probably has something to do with that. Part of your job.
When I picked Russ to win MVP this year,
I don't blame you though. I don't blame you. Like, with the receiving core that was there, with that offense that was there, like, he should have been much better. And, like, this is a guy that has had Hall of Fame type career up to this point, and the one thing really missing from that resume is an MVP, or at least a dang MVP vote. And so, I don't blame you for doing that. But it hasn't worked out thus far, and this team has committed $250 million into this guy, so you better hope it pays off next year.
Just in case you didn't hear him right, $250 million with a B. They invested $250 million.
Correct. Yeah, he got the Deshaun Watson treatment, and deservedly so. Like, this is a guy that arguably deserves it more than Watson. So. Yeah, it's just a messy situation in Denver, and hopefully for Russ's sake and for those fans' sake, they can get it figured out moving forward. Because if it comes out next year and we get more of the same or slightly better the same, then it's gonna be, I don't know what's gonna happen, because
it will go down as the worst contract in NFL history.
Yeah,
and like only closely followed by if Deshaun Watson follows in his footsteps of terribleness.
And it's not like Denver can do anything because of how much they gave up to get him. Like, they can't go out and draft top tier talent because they don't have the draft capital for it. I mean, your best option is to look at trading Russ a second time. And if he puts up numbers like this year again, or like I said before, slightly better numbers, who's going to really want to take that trade? I mean, it has potential to be a very, very messy situation. In case I didn't mention it, because I don't think I did, I have the Falcons beating the Cardinals in the previous game. But yeah, Falcons over Cardinals, Chiefs over Broncos in this one.
Yep.
So let's head up to Foxborough. We have the Miami Dolphins, probably without Tua, because he's in the concussion protocol. Head into New England to take on the Patriots. At home, the Patriots are 2.5-point favorites. I think that's fair given the current quarterback situation for Miami. A lot of question marks there whether Tua will play, whether he won't play. And if he does play, will you get the same poor plays put up for the last 4 weeks when they've lost 4 in a row? I can say that a lot of the blame for those 4 losses falls squarely on him. He has played incredibly poor, and it's crazy the turnaround that they've had this season, because they started off looking very good. They looked dominant, and even in their losses, they still looked good. It's all turned around.
Yep.
I genuinely don't know who to pick in this game. I don't like where this Patriots team is. I think there's just as
Stevens
messy.
Just keeps throwing the game away.
Yeah, two in a row.
Been under review again this week.
2 in a row.
Honorary
Stevenson is costing the game. I don't think that coaching staff has good unity and cohesion. Is that a word? Cohesion? That's a word.
Yep.
But it's not a cohesive unit there between the coaching staff, and I think that's causing a lot of problems, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't know. Like, I want to go Dolphins, but without Tua, it's tough. Man, I don't know who I want to pick here. I'm gonna go Miami, because I think they're the better team, and they need this win. Like, they desperately need to get things turned around quickly. So I'm going Miami. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Patriots. I think this team lives and dies with Tua, and if Tua is, I don't think Tua's back. I mean, they just announced that he was entering the protocol yesterday. Like,
correct.
It was a late entry into the protocol. I don't think that there's any way he gets through it in time. And I don't like this Miami team with Teddy B. Like, I like Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's a solid backup quarterback option. But this team, they have to have the stellar passing game that Tua was giving them for the, first 12 games he played or whatever it was. And so, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Pats. I think that their defense is solid. They've lost some close games, and we'll see if they can just kind of fix, just don't play Ramondre Stevens in the last drive. Just take him out.
Yeah. I mean, do something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't love picking the Dolphins, but I don't just something about that Patriots team, man. I don't love where that team is at.
I'm with you.
It's a weird game to pick. But let's go over to New Jersey, where we have the Indianapolis Colts coming into town to take on the New York Giants. I think your guess is as good as mine as to which quarterback is starting this game for the Colts, because they keep trying out new things and nothing is working. I personally think you should just stick with Matt Ryan. I mean, I feel like the move to Foles this week was a move to see if maybe Foles can look like he's looked in the past, and moving into next season, maybe you got something. Other than that, I don't know why you go to Foles unless Matt Ryan is dealing with some sort of injury. You're playing for nothing. You have nothing to play for. Why? I don't understand it. I think Jeff Saturday is probably not going to get that job long term. And this is a game the Giants need. I think if the Giants win this game, they're in. I believe that's a clinching scenario. You're the expert on all that, so I don't know for sure, but I believe the Giants just need to win one game out of their last 2. So
I think that is correct.
The Giants are 5-point favorites. It's probably going to happen this week, and I don't like that either, because I don't think the Giants are a good team. I think they're frauds. But they're in a position to where they can clinch in week 17. So, oh man, I really want to pick the Colts, but I've got to roll with the Giants. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I feel like the Giants are like that C student who barely does the bare minimum and skids through into getting a B, and you're like, what? How did you? Which by that I mean me and you in school.
Hey, I was an A student, man. I graduated 4th in my class.
Wow, I didn't realize I was the dumb one on the top. I learned something new. I'm Blake. I'm the dumb one on the podcast. No, I had like a 3.7 or 3.5. I don't remember when I was, but I was like top quarter of my class. So, but I also didn't care. I know I don't think you cared either.
I
But,
didn't care.
okay, so I was the Giants. That's what I was. I was just kind of there, and I did what I needed to do to get by and get do decent. And I think that's what the Giants have done. I think that
Yeah.
there's something respectable about that. That I kind of relate to the Giants. That they're survivors. They're not thrivers. They're not gonna wow you with anything, but
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, oh, okay, look at the Giants. How inspirational they can make the playoffs after the terrible things that they were last year. Anyway, maybe I need to talk to a therapist, but I'm gonna go with the Giants in this one. I think if I hadn't just gone on that mini rant about how I am the New York Giants,
Yeah.
I would have gone on a rant that I might hate Jeff Saturday for how he's treated Matt Ryan. I definitely hate the Colts. Period. I hate them because they've ruined arguably the best player that this Falcons team has ever had,
Yeah.
and they just I just can't. I can't get into it. But starting Nick Foles gives you nothing that Matt Ryan, and I love that Nick Foles got sacked 400 times in that game because it's like, yeah, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think that Nick Foles was going to come in and be better than Matt Ryan? Like, at what point ever in their careers has Nick Foles ever been a better football player than Matt Ryan? Literally never. Literally never has Nick Foles been a better football player than Matt Ryan.
He's won a Super Bowl.
You know who else has won a Super Bowl? Trent Dilfer. You know who didn't win a Super Bowl? Dan Marino. You're going to tell me, you sit there with a straight face and tell me that Trent Dilfer is a better quarterback than Dan Marino?
All I'm saying is that Philadelphia Eagles played the same team that the Atlanta Falcons played, and Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. And wasn't he MVP of that game? I feel like he was.
I don't remember.
Trent Dilfer certainly didn't win a Super Bowl MVP, but I'm pretty sure Nick Foles did.
Yeah, I still refuse. I refuse. Matt Ryan was excellent that game as well. He was excellent in his Super Bowl. The defense
100%,
absolutely
100%, yes.
pooped the bed in that one.
Yes.
So, regardless, I will say that every single day of his life, Matt Ryan has been a better football player than Nick Foles.
Fair.
Every
Yeah.
single day that they both have woken up, Matt Ryan has been better than Nick Foles. So, why are you like, you know what? Maybe Nick Foles is the answer. That's how we'll beat the Chargers. We'll bring out Nick Foles. I said I wasn't going to go on this rant, and yet here I am standing here. Like, I almost would understand it if you'd go with Sam Ehlinger, even though he's also just dog water of a quarterback.
Right, but
so,
he's a young quarterback that potentially,
Right.
if everything is clicking, you can look at building around him. Yes, I agree.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to bench Matt Ryan was in street clothes. And I really feel like Jeff Saturday was like, I really wish we could put Matt Ryan in the game right now. And I'm sure Matt was like, why am I wearing these clothes? Huh? If I put on golf cleats, I would be the best quarterback standing on the sideline.
So that makes me think it's one of two things. I feel like either there is some undisclosed injury to Matt Ryan that just hasn't been put out there into the ether.
He was a healthy scratch. That's what he was. He was a healthy scratch.
Which, if that is true, then that leads me to presumption number 2, which is that the Colts are in fact actually tanking, because that makes me think that this was a call from the front office to Jeff Saturday saying, "Hey, bench Matt Ryan. We are now tanking. We're playing for a high draft pick. We don't need to win games," because there's zero reason to do that unless that is the reason, or if Matt Ryan has some kind of undisclosed injury.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, well, that makes sense as to why they hired Jeff Saturday. But also, if you want to lose games, you know who was great at losing games? Frank Reich.
Yeah.
You just say, you know what, we're gonna keep him all year because you know what he's not gonna do? Win.
Yep.
I don't know how. Jim Irsay's an idiot. Let's just go with that. He's an idiot.
I mean,
I don't know what he's doing.
The Colts are putting themselves in a really weird position of like building for the future. Like they're that team is truly probably one of the few teams that that really is like a quarterback away from being a contending champion. At least we all think so on paper.
Right.
That defense is pretty solid. The offensive line is presumably should be pretty solid. The weapons there on the offense between Jonathan Taylor, which granted he's injured,
Right.
but Jonathan Taylor, stud running back, Michael Pittman, solid wide receiver. Like there's weapons there, and if they had a championship caliber quarterback, this is a team that could go on a run. However, if they keep putting themselves in this cycle of year after year, who's going to replace Andrew Luck from 5 years ago? It's not going to work for them. And they're in a really weird spot now to where I'm almost at the point to where I want to say, Indy, just tear the whole thing down, sell off your assets, get as many draft picks as you can, and go head first into a rebuild, because you're not doing yourself any favors with the way that you are managing this team year in, year out, from a personnel standpoint. So yeah, it's a weird situation in Indy.
It's like they're trying to bail water out of a sinking ship with a colander. Like it's just like it just keeps, you're getting a little bit out, but you're also not doing a whole lot.
But like the weird thing is, we all of us, me, you, Hayden, who we had on our preview episode, we all bought into this Matt Ryan experiment, and we all thought this guy is talented enough; he's going to be the answer. I want to say, me and him both picked Indy to be in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah,
And
I mean, all of us thought that this team. You just said they're maybe a quarterback away. I think this proves that they're not a quarterback away.
it might,
brought
it
in
might,
Matt Ryan, and like he was awful because that offensive line is awful. Maybe this offensive line has been a lie the whole time.
Potentially. I mean, I do think there is. You look at what that team did 2 years ago with Phillip Rivers, and I get it that like there's been some changes on both sides of the ball in 2 years, but you look at what they did with Phillip Rivers 2 years ago, and Phillip Rivers was on the tail end of his career.
Yeah,
could argue it's a Hall of Fame career, but there's a couple of key things missing. It was a drastically worse quarterback. No, I'm still good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you for a second.
Weird.
My bad.
Weird.
Just cut out for no reason.
You're good. But yeah, then you get Carson Wentz the next season, who is a drastically worse quarterback than Phillip Rivers, and they do slightly worse. It's not as like they went 9-8 versus 11-5, so it's not like a completely worse team. And now you get Matt Ryan, who maybe he ain't got it no more, man.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a tough situation they got cooking there.
Yeah.
But let's head on up to Philly, where we have the New Orleans Saints. The Eagles are 7-point favorites. That's probably fair. I don't know if Hurts is playing this one or if they're still going to stick with Minshew. If it's me, honestly, I would probably sit Jalen for the rest of the season. There's I want to say there's a 2-game lead over. Is there a 2-game? Now I gotta check. But I feel like there's a 2-game lead over the Vikings currently. Let me just double check that. So 1-game lead over the Vikings.
I think they. Yeah.
There's a 1-game.
They lost the Cowboys.
Right. There's a 1-game lead over the Vikings. You do have the tiebreaker over the Vikings, though, because they beat them earlier in the season. Dominated the Vikings earlier in the season. You have a 2-game lead over the Cowboys. I think the chances of you missing out on the top seed and missing out on the division are so slim at this point, that if it's me, what that game against the Cowboys showed me is, hey, we can compete with Minshew, at the very least be competitive with Minshew, potentially win at least 1 game with Minshew. And if you win 1 game, you're set. You got the 1 seed, you got the division, it's over with. And you have 2 opportunities to do that. If it's me, I would very, very much consider benching Jalen for the rest of the season, regardless of where he's at health-wise, just so he is 1,000% ready for the playoffs. But I don't know what they're going to do. And they're hosting the Saints team, which is Stinky Poo Poo has still technically alive for that division, although that division nobody wants to win. So I'm rolling.
Panthers want to win.
Maybe I'm rolling with I'm rolling with the Eagles in this one. I think they're much better.
Yeah.
Who you got, man?
Same. I even think if I really thought that I was thinking that Jalen was going to be back. Jalen was going to be back, but honestly, I think even with Gardner Minshew,
They're going to beat
team
him.
is better than the Saints.
100%.
So give me the Eagles in this one. I don't care who the quarterback is. You could bring Nick Foles in, and he'd probably be better than the Saints team.
I would say I think the Eagles get. Who do they get in Week 18? They get the Giants Week 18. So if Minshew goes out there and he can't get the job done on Sunday, then maybe consider bringing Jalen back, because the Giants could be a tough out or for you. So do what you got to do. But I think Minshew can get the job done. If he gets it done on Sunday, start him in Week 18. There's no point in playing Jalen. Speaking of the NFC South, let's go down to Tampa, where we have a very, very big game happening between the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is one of the spicier matchups of the weekend. Who would have thought these two teams in January playing meaningful football with the way that they've looked all season? But here we are, Week 17. Division's on the line here. I think whoever wins this game is probably going to win the division. The Bucs win this game, they're definitely winning the division. I want to say they might clinch it, depending on what the Saints do. But the Panthers will need to win this one, and a couple things happen next week if they don't win, because their records will be tied. But Panthers are in the driver's seat. They go out and get this dub. Tampa, 3-point favorites. I'm rolling with Carolina, man. I believe in this team. Tom Brady's a doo-doo head. Sticking by that. And I can't pull for the Bucs. Who you got, man?
I'm with you, man. I think the Panthers got this one. I think the Panthers came out and showed how good this defense is against a Lions offense that really is one of the best in the league this past week. And then the Bucs come out and needed overtime to beat the
Arizona Cardinals.
Who was playing quarterback? Trace McSorley? Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
The Trace McSorley led Arizona Cardinals. You needed overtime to beat that team? Get out of here. This Panthers team is far and above a better football team than this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. And I don't know how anybody thinks differently other than people are just blinded by Tom Brady.
That's what it is.
So, I mean, it's hard not to be blinded by Tom Brady and all those stupid Super Bowl rings he has on. Maybe that's why he can't throw the ball. He's probably wearing his Super Bowl rings under his gloves.
Yeah. Well, let's head on up to Maryland, where we have another important game. We have the Cleveland Browns, who are donezo. They have been eliminated. They have no shot at a playoff. But they're heading in to face this Washington Commanders team that needs a win. Needs a win bad. They have a half-game lead currently on that 7th wild card spot. But the Packers are sneaking up. The Lions are sneaking up. The Seattle Seahawks are sneaking up. They're all sitting there, right, just willing to take willing and ready to take that last spot in the playoffs if the Commanders falter. And facing a Browns team that is talented, but hasn't been able to put it all together. Washington currently are 2-point favorites. Part of me really, really wants to take this Browns team because I have lost faith in the Commanders. Heineke was benched on Sunday, and Heineke I don't think played terrible in that game. He had I believe he threw a pick, and I believe he had a strip sack, so a fumble. But strip sacks are hard. Like that's so much that's not on the quarterback, especially when it's Nick Bosa that's strip sacking you. Like, come on, what's Heineke supposed to do? He got benched. Wentz came in. Wentz looked good. To his credit, Carson Wentz looked good. Drove him down the field, got a touchdown. Arguably a meaningless touchdown at that point in the game. But I don't know who's starting. I would bet that Carson Wentz is going to start. Knowing Ron Rivera, I think Rivera hasn't had a lot of faith in Heineke. I think the only reason Heineke has kept the starting job is because of the way that team feels about him. and we'll see what happens if and when Carson does start and how that team responds to that. But man, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pick the Browns.
Well,
Who you got, man?
yeah, I'm gonna go with the Commies. I still think that they're a better team. This Browns team has underwhelmed after a decent start. You know, the first 4 or 5 weeks, it was like, okay, this Browns team looks
Yeah.
like they could be pretty good, especially once Deshaun gets in. I'm sorry that I said his name. My bad. Especially once the Predator comes back, that we can have be better off. But he's been awful. Great, the world loves it. Everybody loves it. He's terrible. So, yeah, I think it's hard to pick this Browns team who really they lost to the Saints. Like, how do
True.
you come back from that? Like, that's rough. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Commanders. I think that they just have it a little bit more together than Cleveland does.
I think part of it for me is that it's the same reason I wanted to pick the Colts over the Giants, where it's like I'm at a point to where I genuinely don't want to see the Giants or the Commanders in the playoffs just because of how those two teams have looked recently. The Giants all season I haven't been a believer in. I would much rather see the Lions. I'd rather see the Seahawks. I would honestly rather see the Packers in the playoffs over those two teams because I think that those other three teams have played better recently.
Yeah.
The Seahawks, maybe not.
Right.
They looked really good to start the season. But I just think those three other teams are better stories and have the talent to make for better matchups in the playoffs than what the Giants and Commanders bring. And so the football fan in me is rooting for those two teams to lose because of where those two teams are at, what they look like.
That makes sense.
But what happens, happens.
Yep.
Let's head on out to Houston, where we have the Jacksonville Jaguars head in to take on the Houston Texans, who got a win. They're 2-12-1 now. Jacksonville on the road, though, are 4.5-point favorites, and I think that's fair. Jacksonville is a very hot team right now. They're playing very good football, and they're facing a Texans team that doesn't have much to play for. They have looked good over the last couple weeks. They took the Chiefs to overtime. They took the Cowboys almost to overtime, and they're playing tough football for genuinely no reason. But maybe Lovie Smith is inspiring those guys. Maybe he's working toward getting another contract for next season. Who knows? But I've got the Jags in this one.
Give him a contract for next season.
I mean, I think that if he wants to go into that front office at this point, he has an argument based off of the ways that he's had that team playing the last 3 weeks. And if he continues over week 17, week 18, if that 5-week stretch, and he can say, hey, look at the way these guys played for me, look at what I've done with absolutely nothing to work with, mind you, he might have an argument. He might have a case. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying it's not outside the realm of possibility. But I've got the Jags winning this one because the Jags are their team. Who you got, man?
Same. Yeah. Jags are better. And this is, the Jags at this point, they're fighting for their lives and fighting for a playoff spot. So I think that they're driven and backs are against the wall. So
they hungry, man.
Duval County.
Hungry. Well, let's go out to Vegas where we have the San Francisco 49ers heading into Vegas to take on the Las Vegas Raiders, who continue to stink it up every week.
Be exactly what I said they would be.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what we're going to continue to say. I'm going to continue to remind you that this is exactly what I expected from the Raiders.
They lost another one to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Saturday night. And this team is rough, man. They're not good. They're not good. You were right. I was wrong. There's a lot of talk of Derek Carr potentially playing elsewhere next season, which I don't know how Devontae Adams would feel about that, seeing how Derek Carr was a very big reason why he wanted to go to the Raiders. Yeah. I think that if you lose Carr, I don't know if Adams is going to play the same. I mean, granted, he hasn't played great this year, but I don't know, man. That's a really tough situation. We'll see what Vegas does in the offseason. But in this game, the Niners are 6-point favorites. I think San Francisco's going to roll. They've looked great, even with playing with their third string quarterback in Brock Purdy. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm going with the 49ers. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
see ever a reason to pick this Raiders team unless they're playing somebody that's like the Texans. Like, there's no why would you pick them? So,
Yeah.
give me the 49ers, especially because I think the 49ers are arguably a top 4 team in the league. So,
I don't think there's any argument there. They most certainly are. Yeah.
Mr. Relevant.
Yeah, I mean Purdy, he's looked like the real deal, man. I'm about ready to say he is the real deal.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty dang good. Let's go up to Seattle. We have the New York Jets flying their way out to Seattle to take on the Seahawks, and we've got a new quarterback. He's back, baby. Old White Mike, White Lightning, out
White
there,
Lightning.
out there leading that team to 400 yards and probably 3 picks, and maybe he gets the win.
Who knows? You never know.
The Jets on the road are 2-point favorites. I like it, man. I'm excited to see Mike White back. Anybody's better than Zach Wilson at this point. He just proved that again on Thursday night against the Jags in a huge game that the Jets desperately needed to win to stay relevant in the playoff race. He was nowhere to be found. He did nothing. He did nothing. And not only did he do nothing, but when they went to their third string quarterback in Stravler or whatever his name was, automatically breathed new life into that offense. Zach Wilson looks bad every time he's out there, and I think his time in New York is probably over with, as it should have been 10 weeks ago, probably.
Well, they shouldn't have drafted him. We try to say that.
Ding, ding, ding. You're onto something there. Yeah, I've got Mike White leading the Jets to a victory in this one. Who you got, man?
I also have the Jets. I think riding the White Lightning. I think they're gonna have this one. The Seahawks have really sputtered down the stretch here.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Geno Smith, he finally wrote back. So yeah, give me the Jets.
Yeah, Geno started working on his calligraphy. That's what happened.
Did. Yeah. Pretty sad.
Yeah, it sucks, man, because that was such a fun story, the Geno Smith Renaissance, and I think Geno's played well enough to maybe.
I like how you said Renaissance, like there was ever a Sans to begin with. Like you can't, like there was no It's just this was the Sans.
I think Geno's played well enough to float his name out there as a potential starter somewhere.
No.
I do think I do think he, like, when you look at his body of work over the entire season, I think that he has done that. And listen, it depends on where there's going to be an opening. Who knows? But maybe if a team's desperate for a quarterback, maybe take a chance on Geno. Maybe take a chance.
That's rough. I think you put him on this Jets team, and I don't know if it makes them that much better. But how full circle would that be if Geno Smith came back to the Jets?
I mean, he's 8th
the
in the league in yards. He's 4th in the league in touchdowns. He's 5th in QBR. Like,
he's
been solid, man. He's been
DK
solid.
Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Noah Fant.
Yeah, and if he was on this Jets team, he would have Garrett Wilson, CJ Uzama. Like, he'd have good guys.
That's not DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Noah Fant.
I mean, I don't disagree, but there's talent to be had
or
on
Pete
this
Carroll.
Jets team. That is true. That is true.
So anyway, we're both taking the Jets.
Yeah. Let's go out to LA where we have the SoFi Showdown. We've got the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are 6.5-point favorites in this game. That's fair. The Chargers team just got themselves a playoff berth. They're a very good football team. They're getting healthy at the right time. And I've got the Chargers over the Rams. I don't care if the Rams just put up a 50 burger on the Broncos. I don't see them doing that to this Chargers defense that has gotten better and better over the weeks as they've gotten healthier and healthier. So give me the LA Chargers. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm also taking the Chargers. That was a pretty fun night last night. We got to watch the Chargers game while we were opening Christmas presents. My brother-in-law, my sister's husband, is a huge Chargers fan. So got to watch a Chargers game with him. It was
There
fun
you
because
go.
they won.
Yeah.
So that was good. Yeah, so I like this chart. You mean we know I picked this Chargers team to win the Super Bowl, and how crazy would it be if banged up they came back and were able to do it? I don't see it happening, but who knows? Their
I could
offensive
see
line-
them. I could see them playing anybody in the AFC close as they get healthier and healthier.
And I was talking to Troy last night that we said, me, you, and Peter all said, if Brandon Staley can come in this year and do less Brandon
Yes.
Staleying, that this team is significantly better. Here they are; they've clinched their first playoff berth since 2018, and it's because Brandon Staley learned that he shouldn't always gamble, and his gambles have been much more calculated, and he's not losing games because of his gambles. So props to Brandon Staley, big time
Yep.
listener of the podcast. He's a big fan,
Obviously,
big fan
yeah.
of Booth Review. And so he's listening, and I appreciate it. Brandon, we're rooting for you. Go out there and get that win. Beat the Rams. Show them that you're the better team, even though the other one won the Super Bowl. But you should be the main ones in the stadium.
I am interested to see who has the louder and more vocal audience in that stadium between the two LA teams, because I feel like historically the Chargers have kind of been the younger brother to the LA Rams, and with the Rams coming off the Super Bowl, but that Rams team has looked really bad, and I think LA fans are fair weather fans that will root for a team when they're doing good and not care at all when they're doing bad.
Yeah.
So
LA and New York, they're fake cities. They don't have any kind of
100%.
they don't have any kind of like loyalty.
Why put a team in a big city? Just put them in smaller towns. Or
Kansas City loves them. They love them.
Green Bay loves the Packers.
Oklahoma City, I mean,
Love the Thunder.
Love the Thunder.
Love the Thunder.
Love them.
Yeah. I think that,
Small
I mean,
towns, way to
I
go.
do think that is like a key to fandom.
Yep. Or maybe just have one team. Stop putting
that
two
too.
in the same city. Stupid.
That too.
Nobody
Speaking
likes it.
Speaking of Green Bay, another potentially spicy matchup on Sunday, we have the Minnesota Vikings, the potentially fraudulent Minnesota Vikings who have somehow managed to go 11-0 in one-score games this year.
Drag the leg.
Heading into 61-yarder. Heading into Green Bay, the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, to take on this Packers team that needs a dub. They need every dub they can get. The Packers somehow, for some reason, are 3.5-point favorites, despite what happened in Week 1 between these two teams, where Green Bay got completely dominated. Vegas likes Green Bay right now.
That's crazy, man.
I'm really trying not to fall for this Packers team. But I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to pick the Packers to get the upset over the Vikings. I think things are clicking. The defense looked great on Sunday against a very good Dolphins team. Things are starting to go their way. That offense is starting to get things rolling. The one thing that worries me is Christian Watson. He was ruled out of that game towards the end. I believe it was a hip injury. So we'll see what happens with him if he's able to play in this game on Sunday, because if he's not, that changes a lot. He has become their dynamic big playmaker on that offensive side. So if you don't have him, it's going to be tough because your wide receiver core is already pretty bad. But I'm doing it, man. I'm picking the Packers. Who you got?
I don't think you can consider it an upset, and just if you're watching on YouTube and you're like, "What is Blake doing?" I'm just tired of. I'm sitting on a drum stool, which I just broke when I did that. I'm sitting on a drum throne and my butt hurts. So, um, I wanted to stand up for a second. Yeah, I don't think it's an upset if the Packers are favored. I don't think you can say you're picking the Packers for the upset because they're favored in this game,
That's fair. Yeah, yeah,
and they would be favored on a neutral site.
yeah.
So I am also gonna go with the Packers. I think that there's something to ruin here. And what's funny is I picked this game and I didn't even look at the line, so I thought I was
Mm.
picking an upset too. Yeah, I think the Packers team is getting hot, and the Vikings, they're kind of like the Giants in that they just like continue to do what they need to do to to be where they are, but without like really impressing ever.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take the Packers. I think this team is kind of starting to find a rhythm and a groove. And especially since the Vikings are the worst pass defense in the league, not a good day to go up against Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say earlier that if you're the New York Giants, I think I'm the Minnesota Vikings. To where it's like, I don't particularly care, but I guess I'm pretty good at this education stuff.
There you go.
I'm just kind of coasting over here to a nice A average, graduating
Yeah.
fourth in my class, but I'm not putting a ton of effort into it. That's kind of what the Vikings have done.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
yeah.
Here we go. Look at that.
Maybe that's why I've been rooting for them so hard all year.
Yeah.
And being like, hey, pay attention to these guys. They're actually good. And no, they're probably not.
Well, maybe they are good. They're just not trying very hard.
That could be it too. That could be it too. Let's head on up to Baltimore for Sunday Night Football. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers heading in to take on the Baltimore Ravens. This game got flexed into Sunday Night Football, which is fun. This is a good rivalry. I think the Steelers are surprisingly making some noise. They still have a shot at the playoffs for that seventh seed. That'd be fun to see. They're probably one of the last teams I want to see there because I think there's more fun teams. But I'd be cool with it. Baltimore currently 3-point favorites. That's probably fair. Do we have a status on Lamar? Did he play against the Falcons on Sunday?
No, he didn't play at all.
Okay.
No, he didn't. And I don't. From what I knew, he was never even like a threat to play.
Interesting.
Brett Hundley was really the more of the one to watch.
Okay.
Yeah, so far he is still listed as questionable.
Yep.
Hey, I was talking slow because I'm trying to stall. I do not see any updates. This is just on ESPN's injury update. So just as of today, he is still listed as questionable, and that's all we got.
Huh. All right. Well, that's definitely a storyline to follow for this one because I think that would definitely impact the game, but I don't know if it's my love for Kenny Pickett for some reason or my want to see Mike Tomlin keep that streak of winning seasons alive. I'm picking the Steelers to get the upset over Baltimore. Who you got, man?
I'm going with the Ravens because it's like I don't really understand it. I truly don't understand how the Ravens keep winning games. Like this is if we're continuing to use the school analogy, this is the kid that like never showed up to class and like
Aced the final exam.
Yeah, and it was like you did what? How you're in the playoffs? How did you do this? Like what? There's nothing good about like when I look at this Ravens team. Even when I watched them play the Falcons on Sunday, there was nothing good about them.
Yeah.
Their defense is not good. Their offense is not good. I don't know. I don't know why.
It's the head coach, man.
They got 10 wins. It's Justin Tucker. That's what they have Justin Tucker their way
and John Harbaugh. That's what it
into
is.
a 10-win season. So I'm gonna go with the Ravens just because it's like I don't know. They just keep winning somehow. So I'll go with it.
Yeah,
I know that's great. I know it's great analysis. I know that's what you guys come here for.
It's fair
for us to say. I don't know why this team's good.
It's fair reasoning though, like because you are correct. They do keep on winning, and there's no explanation for it. But I truly believe a lot of that comes down to the head coach, and John Harbaugh is one of the best in the league. I would say he's top 5, if not even top 3. And so Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand it either. But finishing off week 17 and finishing off the Monday Night Football schedule is arguably one of the best games on paper of the season. I think it's quite fitting that finishing off the start to January football, we have a pretty good preview of what we will be seeing further down the line in January. We have the Buffalo Bills heading in to Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. These two teams are fighting for the one spot in the AFC. If the Bengals pull out the victory, they will be tied with the Bills, and they'll have the tiebreaker over the Bills. And then we'll see what the Chiefs happen to do, because they're definitely in the running as well. This is a spicy matchup. And I've got the Bills getting the win. On the road, they're 1-point favorites. I think the Bills are still, in my opinion, the most complete team in the league, especially if they can continue to do what they did this weekend. They got the run game going this past weekend. Granted, it was against the Chicago Bears, so, maybe we give them a little bit of a pass on that. But they got the run game going with Singletary and I'm trying to remember who the other guy is. James Cook. Both looked very good. Singletary had 106 yards. James Cook had 99. So both almost a pair of 100-yard rushers there on the ground. And that's the one thing that's been missing for this Buffalo team. We said it all last year. We've said it a lot this year. That's what they're missing. And if Singletary and Cook can be those guys, step in. I mean, I think Cook has gotten better and better with each week, I think.
He has, yeah.
So I'm excited, man. I think this team is very, very, very good. And can definitely make a run at a Super Bowl. So I'm rolling with Buffalo.
Finally get a championship. That would be awesome.
I think they've got the team to do it, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm also going with the Bills. I actually had written a question mark because I wanted to look at injury status and see if there was anything I needed to know. La'el Collins, offensive tackle for the Bengals, tore his ACL and MCL. He's out for the rest of the season. That could be devastating. I mean, he was their big free agent signing, right? Wasn't he like their big home run? Like
that was like one of the first big moves of the offseason, and deservedly so, because no other quarterback was on their bum more than Joe Burrow last year. So yeah, they needed to get someone. And maybe if you're a Bengals fan, or if you're in that front office, maybe you sit there and say, okay, well, we still made it to the Super Bowl without him last year. Granted, our quarterback was on the ground a lot, but he still made it work. So maybe with him,
Whitworth last year.
No, Whitworth was with the Rams.
Was it who was it? They lost somebody. They lost Norwell?
Probably. They probably did. But what I'm saying,
they lost an offensive tackle and signed La'el Collins. So like, it wasn't that they were necessarily without him. It's they had somebody else who was good in his spot.
Right.
So they don't have that.
What I'm saying is, even without him, maybe Burrow takes a couple more sacks, maybe takes a couple more hits. But this is a guy that has taken a lot of hits over his career thus far, and he's kind of used to that. So maybe he can figure it out. I know I know it sounds bad, but I'm saying that he has experience without having a good offensive line. So
he has experience being absolutely pummeled. So it only cost him his entire rookie season. So let's just.
I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm trying to be optimistic for the city of Cincinnati.
I understand. But I'm not too optimistic this week. I've got the Bills. I think they're the better team, especially with an injured La'el Collins. That's rough for the Bengals fans.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Well, that wraps up week 17. Things are getting interesting. Things are getting spicy, man. Getting things moving, getting teams clinching spots. Teams are getting eliminated. We're going to have some more happen this week. I'm excited. We're getting into the fun part of the season. But as always, we appreciate you listening to us. Hey, if you're going out this New Year's Eve, don't be stupid. Call an Uber, call a Lyft. Yeah, put the podcast on in the car or the taxi, the Lyft, the Uber, whatever. Don't just be smart. Make smart
Yeah, yeah,
decisions
yeah.
on New Year's
Don't be
Eve.
dumb.
We appreciate you listening, and we want to continue to have you as a listener.
Yeah,
and
we want
a
you to be
fan.
here next year.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But we appreciate it. If you're not in the Discord, come hop into the Discord. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitch. Follow us on YouTube. You know, all the good stuff I say every week and you don't listen to. But we appreciate it. Thank you. And as always, I think